Vanessa Crowe raised a champagne glass while my unsigned safety certificate burned beneath the conference room lights. Sign it, Ethan. I can't. Then clear your locker. Her voice cut through the launch party at Vale Meridian, sharper than the ice clicking inside crystal glasses. Gold balloons floated above a scale model of our new hospital life support system, and the air smelled of warm champagne, printer toner, and the lemon polish used on the black walnut table. I looked at the certification page between us. The box beside fail-safe validation remained empty. The backup controller still drops offline during a voltage transfer, I said. If I sign, hospitals will believe it passed. Vanessa placed one manicured finger on the signature line. Engineering approved the product. Engineering approved the test. Vanessa authorized. Careful. Run it again under full load. For a moment, only the ventilation system hummed. Cold white light glinted across her silver watch, and behind the glass wall, managers washed with paper plates in their hands. Vanessa picked up the certificate, folded it once, and tore it cleanly down the middle. Ethan Cole, your employment is terminated effective immediately. She said each word toward the open doors so no one could pretend they had missed it. A security supervisor stepped forward, but I removed my badge before he reached me and set it beside the torn paper. You're firing me for refusing to certify a device I believe is unsafe. I'm firing you for insubordination. The test logs will show why I refused. Not your concern anymore. Her smile returned when several executives lowered their eyes. She turned toward the champagne table and lifted her glass higher. To removing obstacles before launch. A few people laughed. Others tapped their glasses together with small, brittle chimes. Vanessa drank as though she had won something. I said nothing. Quiet is not surrender when a man has already told the truth. Sometimes it is the last piece of dignity no one can confiscate. In the maintenance corridor, fluorescent tubes buzzed above gray lockers scarred by years of steel tools and wedding rings. My hands smelled faintly of machine oil as I removed a spare work shirt, a dented thermos, and a folded drawing taped inside the door. My daughter had made it in purple crayon, two stick figures holding hands beneath a crooked yellow sun. Daddy keeps people safe, she had written across the top. The paper trembled once between my fingers. I flattened it against my chest, slipped it into a cardboard box, and closed the locker without looking back. You want me to carry that? The security supervisor asked quietly. No, thank you. Ethan, just open the door. Outside, snow struck my face like grains of salt. The parking lot lamps cast pale circles over empty spaces, and the cold tightened around my thin work jacket as I crossed toward an aging pickup glazed with ice. Behind me, 6 floors above, Vanessa's celebration glowed amber through the windows. I placed the drawing on the passenger seat, started the reluctant engine, and drove away without my job, my insurance, or the paycheck due before rent. By midnight, my name had vanished from the employee directory, but one handwritten safety report was also missing from the executive launch packet, and no one inside the building had yet noticed. Before sunrise, someone powerful would. By 7:10 the next morning, freezing rain ticked against the glass walls of Vale Meridian's executive conference room, and the ventilation system carried the sterile scent of filtered air over polished walnut. A launch simulation glowed across 3 wall-sized monitors, pressure curves, battery reserves, emergency oxygen flow. Every indicator was green. The elevator chimed. Conversation stopped before the doors had fully opened. Claire stepped onto the executive floor in a charcoal coat beaded with melted sleet, carrying no entourage and offering no greeting. The billionaire CEO had been expected in Chicago, 3 states away, until Friday. Instead, she placed a weathered leather portfolio on the conference table and looked toward the life support prototype standing beneath white laboratory lights. Start the failure sequence. Vanessa Crowe lowered her coffee. The presentation begins at 9. Then we have time. The system has already passed operations review. Start it. A technician obeyed. Relays clicked behind the prototype's steel housing. The cooling fans deepened to a low mechanical hum, and blue numbers streamed across the monitors. Claire watched the machine rather than the executives surrounding it. At 90 seconds, she lifted one hand. Stop. The room went still except for rain tapping the windows. Claire crossed to the launch packet beside Vanessa and turned its pages slowly. Printed charts. Legal approvals. Vanessa's signed certification. But none of the narrow yellow sheets covered in compact handwriting. None of the margin calculations. None of the blunt questions that usually forced engineers to test what polished reports preferred to ignore. Claire checked a second binder, then a third. Where is the field risk report? Everything required is there, Vanessa said. Claire ran one finger beneath a flawless graph. That wasn't my question. Operations consolidated the material. Who authorized that? I did. Vanessa straightened, reclaiming the tone that had filled the room the night before. We removed redundant commentary so the board could focus on launch readiness. Claire closed the binder. The sound was soft, but two attorneys near the windows stopped typing. For 6 years, every major Vail Meridian safety review had arrived with the same handwritten appendix. Ethan Cole never decorated a warning, softened a number, or signed what he could not defend. His pages were inconvenient precisely because machines did not care about pride, deadlines, or billion-dollar promises. Claire turned toward the empty chair beside the engineering station. A paper cup still sat near its monitor, a brown ring dried around the bottom. The employee login screen showed no assigned user. Bring Ethan Cole in. No one moved. Now. Vanessa set down her coffee with a porcelain click. That won't be possible. Claire's gaze shifted from the blank workstation to Vanessa. Why? His employment was terminated last night. The cooling fans continued turning, pushing air across the room with a faint smell of warm metal. Claire looked at the green monitors again, then at the executive signatures gathered beneath them. A system prepared for hospitals had lost the one voice she expected to challenge it, and everyone at the table had allowed the meeting to proceed as though nothing had changed. She reached across the conference table and pressed the master control. The simulation screens went black. The launch countdown disappeared. Vanessa's practiced smile faltered. Claire did not raise her voice. She did not need to. Where is he? No chair creaked. No keyboard clicked. Around the table, eyes dropped toward sealed packets and untouched coffee, while Vanessa remained standing with one hand against the walnut surface. Claire waited through 5 full seconds of silence, then pulled the launch badge from her coat and laid it over Vanessa's certification. Someone will give me his location, she said, before this room does anything else. For the first time that morning, the most powerful person on the executive floor was not the woman who had fired Ethan, but the absent man whose empty chair had just stopped a billion-dollar launch. His termination was lawful. Vanessa's words struck the darkened conference room with the clean snap of a closing lock. The ventilation hummed overhead, pushing cold, filtered air across untouched coffee and polished walnut. Claire looked at her without blinking. Vanessa straightened her jacket. Ethan Cole was insubordinate, technically limited, and disruptive. He refused a direct order. He refused to certify an unsafe system. That is his interpretation. Then his records will show it. For the first time, Vanessa's fingers tightened around the back of her chair. Beyond the glass walls, pale morning light spread across the executive floor, catching dust above the silent workstations. Claire opened the administrative console on the conference tablet. Vanessa stepped forward. You can't suspend operations based on one terminated employee's complaints. I'm not suspending operations. Claire entered her authorization code. A soft chime sounded. I'm suspending you. Vanessa's phone vibrated against the table. Her executive dashboard vanished, followed by her building credentials, server permissions, and launch authority. She tapped the screen twice, harder the second time, but a red notice remained. Access revoked. Pending independent review. You're locking out your own operations director hours before launch. I'm preserving evidence before someone decides to consolidate it again. The room went still. Claire instructed legal and information security to place an immediate hold on every email, access log, safety file, camera recording, and deleted document connected to Ethan's employment or the life support launch. No edits. No removals. No remote access. The security supervisor appeared at the doorway, his radio crackling softly against the sterile hush. Ma'am. Claire turned the tablet toward him. Seal Ethan Cole's workstation and locker. Preserve them exactly as they are. The supervisor hesitated, then lowered his voice. His locker is empty. I offered to carry his box last night. Vanessa looked sharply at him. Claire did not. Did he say where he was going? Home. His emergency contact file has an address. An assistant reached for her phone. I'll send a car and arrange for Mr. Cole to be brought in. No. Claire took her coat from the chair. The fabric whispered across the leather as she slipped it on. You want him found quickly, Vanessa said. Then let staff handle it. Claire fastened one button and picked up Ethan's blank place in the launch packet. Nothing but 2 metal rings and the faint impression of pages that should have been there. Staff handled them last night. 20 minutes later, Vale Meridian's black sedan left the mirrored towers behind. Snow scraped beneath the tires as downtown steel gave way to narrow streets, aging brick, and sagging utility lines. Claire sat alone in the rear seat, Ethan's personnel address glowing on her phone while the heater breathed dry air that smelled faintly of leather. The car stopped beside a 3-story apartment building with salt-stained steps and a porch light still burning in daylight. Claire dismissed the driver's offer to accompany her. Wind pushed loose snow across the sidewalk and bit through her coat as she climbed to the second floor. Somewhere behind a thin wall, a child coughed. Pipes knocked inside the building. The hallway smelled of laundry soap, old radiator heat, and breakfast toast. Apartment 2B had peeling paint around the frame and a crayon drawing taped beside the door. A tall man holding a little girl's hand beneath uneven blue letters. My dad keeps people safe. Claire removed one glove and knocked. Footsteps approached, slow and measured. The lock turned. Ethan opened the door in a faded work shirt, his daughter's drawing visible again on the refrigerator behind him. His gaze moved from Claire's face to the Vale Meridian sedan below, then back to her. If you came to order me back, he said, keeping one hand on the door, you came to the wrong address. Claire stood in the cold hallway without an assistant, a contract, or the protection of her boardroom. I didn't come to give you an order. Ethan waited. The radiator clicked once behind him. Claire held out the incomplete launch packet. I came to ask what Vanessa was afraid you would prove. Ethan did not take it. Instead, he looked toward his daughter's room, then opened the door only wide enough for Claire to see a battered cardboard box resting beside the kitchen table. On top lay a handwritten report marked in red, "Do not launch." Come inside, he said. But understand this first. I'm not saving your company from embarrassment. Warm air rattled through the old radiator, carrying the faint smell of burnt coffee across Ethan's cramped kitchen. Snow tapped the window while Claire stood beneath a yellow ceiling light, her tailored coat still beaded with melting ice. Ethan opened the battered box and removed 3 carbon copies, each stamped with a date, a test number, and the same red warning, "Do not launch." Vanessa deleted the originals. You kept copies? I kept proof. The pages made a dry whisper against the scarred table. From the next room came the soft hum of a nightlight, and Claire lowered her voice before touching the first report. Ethan pointed to a hand-drawn diagram of the backup controller. Under full hospital load, a timing fault could trap the system in a restart cycle, leaving connected patients without support for 47 seconds. The dashboard would still show green, he said. The nurses wouldn't know until the machines stopped responding. Claire's phone vibrated across the table. She ignored it. It vibrated again. Ethan slid the copies toward her, but kept one palm resting on the box. You can take these to your engineers. Come back with me and explain them. No, Ethan, I lost my job for telling the truth. I won't walk back, and so Vale Meridian can make my silence look like cooperation. Cold blue light from the window cut across the red ink. Claire studied the deletion logs Ethan had printed before his access vanished. Each warning had been submitted. Each had been removed from the launch record. Her phone rang a third time, and this time the hospital network's name glowed on the screen. She answered. The voice on the other end was clipped and formal. Deployment suspended, contract frozen, emergency review effective immediately. Before Claire could respond, a market alert appeared beneath the call. Vale Meridian stock was falling in heavy pre-market trading. Millions vanished, then tens of millions, the numbers flashing red against her hand. Ethan poured the cold coffee into the sink. That's the cost your board can see. Claire looked up. What cost can't they see? He opened a folder containing maintenance notes from hospital trials, handwritten corrections, revised thresholds, overnight calls logged without overtime. Every time I stayed quiet in public, I was loud in the system. I patched what I could before a nurse or a patient had to discover it for us. Claire turned page after page. 3 hospitals, 11 test wards, thousands of projected patients. The man Vanessa had erased had been standing between them, and a failure no press release could undo. Claire's screen filled with calls from directors, counsel, and investors. She declined every one, photographed the reports, then placed the originals back beneath Ethan's hand. These remain yours. And the consequences remain yours, he said. A new message appeared from the board chairman. Blame Cole, reassure the market, or expect an emergency vote by noon. Claire read it once. Outside, a snowplow scraped the street with a sound like steel dragged over bone. She buttoned her coat and faced Ethan. By noon, they want your name offered up to save the company. Ethan closed the box. Claire slipped her phone into her pocket. They're going to learn what I'm willing to lose instead. The boardroom windows had turned the falling snow into pale static by 11:17 a.m. Beneath the long walnut table, ventilation fans whispered through polished steel, while untouched coffee cooled into a bitter smell. Claire placed Ethan's photographed reports on the wall display. Red warnings glowed across the directors' faces. We have 43 minutes, the chairman said. Name Cole as a disgruntled employee. Reassure the hospitals. Save the launch. Claire removed her coat, folded it over an empty chair, and remained standing. The directors had arrived with lawyers, market projections, and a statement already written for her signature. It said Ethan had exceeded his duties, altered test procedures, and concealed defects after termination. 3 lies arranged neatly beneath the Vale Meridian letterhead. Sign it, the chairman said. The hospital network may restore the contract before the closing bell. Claire ran one finger over the blank signature line. The paper felt smooth and expensive, made for decisions that left no fingerprints. Across the room, the launch countdown still burned on a secondary monitor, 42 minutes and 9 seconds. Ethan refused to certify an unsafe system, she said. Vanessa removed his warnings. That has not been independently established. Then we establish it. A lawyer pushed his glasses higher. If you suspend the launch publicly, lenders can invoke the confidence clause. The board will assume operational control. For how long? Potentially permanently. The heating system clicked off. Cold gathered against the glass, and for several seconds only the countdown could be heard, each electronic pulse thin and precise. Claire looked at the company seal embedded in the tabletop, the emblem she had chosen when Vale Meridian occupied 2 rented rooms above a pharmacy. Then she picked up the prepared statement. The chairman leaned back. Someone released a quiet breath. Claire tore the page once, twice, then laid the pieces over the projected market forecast. No. She crossed to the communications console and pressed the live broadcast key before counsel could reach it. A red light awakened. Across the company, monitors interrupted their schedules. Effective immediately, Vale Meridian is postponing the hospital life support launch, Claire said into the camera. Evidence indicates that material safety warnings were removed from the official record. Those warnings came from Ethan Cole. He will not be blamed for refusing to lie. Chairs scraped behind her. The chairman ordered the transmission cut, but Claire had already entered her founder credentials. Her next command froze the launch countdown at 39 minutes and 51 seconds. Her next sent Ethan's copied reports, access logs, and the board's proposed statement to an independent medical device auditor. The final keystroke placed every relevant file beyond Vale Meridian's power to alter or recall. Transmission confirmed, the console announced. Claire stepped away from it. Her phone began vibrating against the table. Investors, hospitals, reporters, but she turned it face down. You have violated board protocol, the chairman said. I prevented us from violating the truth. Then hear this clearly. At noon, we vote to remove your operational authority. Claire glanced at the torn accusation bearing Ethan's name, then pushed the fragments toward him. Do what you came to do. At exactly 11:23, Vale Meridian's launch banner vanished from every public screen. Trading alarms chirped from 3 phones at once. Outside, snow struck the windows harder, white against black glass. Claire had protected Ethan's dignity, but the empire she built was no longer hers to command, and somewhere across the city, Ethan still possessed the only mind capable of making the machine safe. The boardroom clock advanced 1 minute. 36 remained. The dry rasp of a crayon moved across paper while sleet ticked against the apartment window. Warm radiator pipes knocked inside the wall, and the kitchen smelled of tomato soup and solder from the small workbench Ethan Cole had built beside the sink. His daughter sat in her room beneath a yellow lamp, adding another blue shield to the drawing taped above her desk. Ethan stared at the diagnostic model on his battered laptop. The patch Claire had halted from reaching hospitals should have sealed the backup controller fault. Instead, under a simulated power transfer, the waveform flattened. 47 seconds became permanent. "No," he whispered. "Run it again." The result did not change. The controller stopped sending recovery commands after the third failed handshake, leaving the life support unit frozen while its dashboard continued glowing green. Hospitals could wait for a corrected launch, but several pilot units were already installed for monitored use. The flaw was no longer approaching patients. It was sitting beside them. His daughter appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a faded quilt. "Dad, are you coming to dinner?" "In a minute." "You said that before." The spoon in her hand tapped softly against the bowl. Ethan closed his eyes, listening to the radiator hiss and the icy wind pressing at the glass. On the screen, the repair file carried the name of a patent application he had drafted 2 years earlier. A licensing attorney had estimated it could be worth enough for a house, college savings, and an end to choosing between groceries and heating bills. It belonged to Ethan, not Vale Meridian. They had fired him before he completed it. His phone showed 11:31. Ethan opened the patent folder. Then he looked toward his daughter's room, where the crayon words above her bed read, "My dad keeps people safe." "Bring your soup in here," he said. "Tonight, we eat together at the desk." She climbed onto the chair beside him as he rebuilt the recovery sequence line by line. The laptop fan whined. Soup cooled between them. Each test turned the screen from red to amber, then finally green. But this green told the truth. At 11:42, Ethan compressed the source code, validation results, and installation instructions into one file. A licensing window opened automatically. Exclusive rights, royalty percentage, patent reservation. 3 boxes that could have changed their lives. His daughter leaned against his arm. "Did you fix it?" "Yes." "Then why do you look like you lost something?" Ethan studied the cracked linoleum beneath his boots, the peeling cabinet paint, and the envelope from their landlord held to the refrigerator by a plastic magnet. Then he unchecked every box. Because sometimes keeping something makes it smaller. He attached a waiver granting Vale Meridian, its hospital partners, and all affected medical facilities permanent royalty-free use of the repair. No payment, no ownership dispute, no leverage. His finger hovered over send only once. The message went simultaneously to Claire, the independent auditors, and the hospital network. At Vale Meridian, Claire's phone vibrated across the boardroom table. She opened Ethan's package while the chairman counted down the minutes to the vote. The validation report loaded first, then the waiver. "He gave it away," Claire said. Her voice barely crossed the polished black table. "A repair worth millions." The chairman reached for the phone. Claire pulled it beyond his hand. On her screen, Ethan's final note contained only 2 sentences. "Install this on every pilot unit now. Do not put my name on it until every patient is safe." At 11:46, hospital engineers began deploying the correction. The immediate danger was ending, but Ethan had surrendered the one asset that could have lifted his daughter out of poverty, and the audit trail now showed that a supposedly limited employee had created something no executive at Vale Meridian could replace. Across the boardroom, the chairman looked from the code to the clock. 14 minutes remained before Claire lost control of the company, and Ethan's sacrifice had made one question impossible to avoid. Who had Vale Meridian truly fired? A soft chime passed through the boardroom as the independent auditor's seal appeared on the wall display. Cold light washed over the polished table. Beneath the ventilation hum, the chairman's pen clicked once, then stopped. Claire stood beside the screen while encrypted records opened in chronological order: design drafts, access logs, authorship certificates, deletion histories. "State the conclusion." The lead auditor's voice came through the speaker, calm and unhurried. Ethan Cole created the fail-safe architecture. Not Vanessa Crowe. No, a cursor highlighted hundreds of engineering revisions, each stamped with Ethan's employee credentials months before Vanessa's executive presentations. The evidence was plain enough to fit inside a single breath. Ethan had built the mechanism that kept a failed controller from becoming a dead patient, while Vanessa had removed his name and presented the work as her own. The screen advanced. Red deletion marks spread across Ethan's warnings like cuts through white paper. Vanessa's account had erased the backup controller defect from the launch record, replaced his failed test results with approved language, and authorized his termination less than an hour after he refused to sign the false certification. The chairman pushed back from the table. Leather groaned beneath him. "That proves misconduct," he said. "It does not prove the company depended on him." The auditor opened the source map. Nearly every critical safety branch led back to Ethan's handwritten logic, including the correction now moving through hospital systems. Without his work, Vale Meridian's flagship product had never possessed a reliable emergency layer at all. Claire did not answer. Her hand had gone still over an older file marked Prototype 04, Pediatric Pilot. A scanned maintenance sheet unfolded across the glass. The paper was yellowed at the edges, its ink faded to gray, but the compact handwriting was unmistakable. Ethan Cole had documented an unstable relay, replaced it after hours, and refused overtime because the unit belonged to a child awaiting emergency support. Claire touched the patient number. The room's fluorescent glare blurred against the screen. "Open the hospital record," she said. "Claire," the chairman warned. "Open it." The auditor matched the archived number. A name appeared, Claire's younger brother. Years earlier, before Vale Meridian became a billion-dollar company, that repaired prototype had kept him alive through the night. Ethan had signed only the maintenance log. He had never requested recognition, never contacted the family, and never known the exhausted woman sitting beside that hospital bed would later become Vale Meridian's CEO. Claire removed her hand from the glass, leaving a faint print over his signature. "He saved the patient before he saved the company," she said. The boardroom door unlocked with a metallic snap. Compliance officers entered carrying evidence cases, and Vanessa's access history was preserved under independent custody. On the display, the countdown reached 11:53. The chairman gathered the removal ballots and placed them in a straight line. 7 minutes, he said. "You can expose Vanessa and still lose Vale Meridian." Claire looked from Ethan's stolen designs to the old maintenance sheet. Then she turned the wall display toward every director, making concealment impossible. The man they had called replaceable had built their safety system, protected thousands of strangers, and once saved her own family without knowing her name. Now the board would have to decide whether truth itself was grounds to remove her. "Call the vote," Claire said, "and put every ballot on the public record." The minute hand clicked toward noon, loud as a metronome beneath the cold white boardroom lights. Ventilation whispered through steel grills, carrying the bitter smell of untouched coffee and the dry tang of overheated electronics. Claire remained standing while the board chairman distributed the removal ballots, each sheet scraping across the walnut table. "A vote to remove Claire from operational control," he said. "Cast and record." "And Vanessa?" one director asked. "Separate proceeding." "No," another voice said. Vanessa rose at the far end of the room, her visitor badge dull beneath the fluorescent glare. Two compliance officers stood behind her, evidence cases locked at their feet. She placed both palms on the table, as if the company still belonged beneath them. "If those ballots become public, every director who approved the launch becomes part of the record. Remove Claire, blame Ethan Cole, and the market may forgive us." The room tightened around the soft ticking clock. Claire did not answer for Ethan. She had already placed truth beyond the company's reach. Now the people who had benefited from his silence had to choose without her protection. The first director marked a ballot. Then the second. Paper folded. Pens clicked. Outside the glass walls, employees watched the company-wide feed while red launch suspension alerts pulsed across their monitors. At 11:58, the chairman counted the votes twice. The motion fails. No applause followed. Only the hum of the lights and one sharp breath from Vanessa. The chairman slid the final tally beneath the document camera. Every name appeared on the wall display. Claire retained operational control by one vote, but the victory carried a new cost. No director could later deny where they had stood. Vanessa reached for her phone. A compliance officer covered it with a gloved hand. "That device is now evidence. You can't hold me here." "We're not holding you," Claire said. "We're preserving the record." Vanessa looked toward the directors who had toasted Ethan's firing hours earlier. Not one met her eyes. Her authority had vanished before her title did. Claire crossed to the console and authorized 3 measures with her own credentials. Vanessa's termination for cause, referral of the falsified safety records to federal regulators, and immediate reinstatement of Ethan Cole with full authorship credit, back pay, and control over the fail-safe patent he had surrendered. The confirmation tone sounded 3 times. "You'll destroy the company to honor one technician?" Vanessa asked. Claire removed Ethan's crayon drawing from the evidence scan and set its image beside his designs on the public display. Wax blue letters declared that her father kept people safe. "No," Claire said quietly. "You nearly destroyed it because you believed no one would ask for him." The compliance officers escorted Vanessa from the boardroom. Her heels struck the stone floor, once, twice, then faded beyond the sealed doors. At noon, the launch remained halted. Claire still held the company, and Ethan's name replaced Vanessa's across the safety architecture records. Yet the central chair at the emergency engineering table stood empty. The recovered system could expose the truth, but only Ethan could certify that it would protect a patient. Claire picked up the boardroom phone and called the security supervisor. "Did he leave anything behind?" A pause crackled through the speaker. "Only the drawing. I offered to carry his box, but he took it home." Claire looked at the empty chair, then at the snow whitening the city beyond the glass. Justice had removed the woman who fired him. It had not earned back the man she had failed to protect. She took her coat from the chair. "Prepare the lobby," she said. "If Ethan Cole comes through those doors, no one celebrates, no one speaks for him, and no one asks him to save us." Her hand rested on the shut-off controls. "This time, we ask what he wants." Across town, the security supervisor's private line began to ring. The caller ID showed Ethan Cole. Snow hissed against the glass doors as the lobby lights cast pale rectangles across the marble floor. Through the security supervisor's phone came Ethan Cole's quiet voice, softened by static and the hum of his apartment radiator. "My access still works. Restored 10 minutes ago," the supervisor said. "And your box is where you left it, at home." A brief pause followed. Then Ethan asked him to open the remote engineering console. Upstairs, Claire stopped halfway into her code when the repaired fail-safe schematic appeared across the boardroom display. Ethan's credentials glowed beside it. Not employee credentials, but patent holder authority. "Mr. Cole is requesting a certification channel," the security supervisor said over the speaker. "Put him through," Claire replied. Ethan's face appeared on the screen, lit by the amber lamp above his kitchen workbench. Behind him, sleep blurred the apartment window. A crayon drawing rested beside the keyboard. A small man beneath uneven blue letters that read, "My dad keeps people safe." "The company restored your position," Claire said. "Your authorship, back pay, and patent control are documented. None of that requires you to certify this system." "Good," Ethan answered. "Because I'm not doing it as your employee." The ventilation system whispered above the empty chairs. Claire removed her hand from the shut-off controls and waited. Ethan opened the diagnostic stream, ran the corrected controller through a simulated power loss, and deliberately triggered the failure Vanessa had buried. Red warnings flashed. Backup branches engaged one after another. Then the patient support line remained steady, green, quiet, alive. "Fail-safe holds," Ethan said. "I'll sign the certification as its inventor under one condition." Claire leaned toward the microphone. "Name it." "No engineer at Vale Meridian can be ordered to falsify safety data again. Any employee can halt a launch without retaliation, and every warning goes directly to independent compliance." The radiator knocked behind him. In the boardroom, no one reached for a lawyer. "Agreed," Claire said. "In writing, with your patent authority attached." Ethan signed. The halted system changed from red to certified green, clearing the path for hospitals to receive corrected equipment only after independent review. No applause followed. Claire had forbidden it, and the silence carried more respect than Vanessa's celebration ever had. By late afternoon, Ethan entered the lobby holding the same cardboard box he had carried into the snow. The security supervisor met him, but did not touch it. Claire waited beside the engineering elevator, without an entourage, contract, or rehearsed apology. "I came to return the drawing," Ethan said. "Your supervisor found the tape." Claire looked at the bent paper, then at him. "It belongs wherever you choose to work." Ethan placed the box on the security desk. "Then I choose to come back, not beneath Vanessa's title, and not to rescue anyone's reputation. I'll lead an independent safety office, with final authority to stop any product." "Done." And I picked the team. Freely. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Claire stepped aside so Ethan could enter first. Earlier, she had demanded to know where the man she needed had gone. Now, standing in the hush of the company he had saved, she understood that dignity was not finding him. It was making certain he would never again have to disappear to be heard.